Shalom, I'm Rosalie.
And I'm Mitch. And today we're going to be talking about Christians and Jews being sacrificed over the price of a barrel of oil. Stay tuned and learn how we could avoid such a catastrophe.
For nearly 2,000 years, Jews and Christians have been divided. But now, God is calling for the healing of past hurts and the comforting of His people. Discover how God is prophetically uniting Jews and Christians across the world today on The Crossover. Here is your host, Mitch.
Welcome to our show, The Crossover. And today we have a very special guest, Avi Lipkin, who's been on our show before. And Avi is a lecturer, Avi is an author, a journalist. He's also is in the midst right now of creating a political party in Israel, Bloc Party, he'll share with us. But we're going to start off with his book here that Avi wrote back in 1999, Christians, Revival for Israel's Survival. Christian Revival for Israel's Survival. And Avi, welcome back.
Great to be with you again.
Just for our viewers that don't know you, Avi, take us back to what is a nice Jewish man like you coming over from Israel and getting into many churches to speak and engage them. What is behind that?
Well, I am married to a woman from the Middle East, from Egypt, and she's Jewish, and she understands Arabic, and she understands that there are 1.3 billion people called Muslims who do not like the Jews, who do not like the Christians. And they say that we have to kill the Jews on Saturday because the Jews are the Saturday people, and we have to kill the Christians on Sunday because the Christians are the Sunday people. This is a very well-known adage in the Islamic world. The Muslim world is 1.3 billion people. The Jews in Israel are 5 million. And so I go to the Christian churches in order to mobilize support for the state of Israel, for the Jewish people. And I also try to make it very clear to the Christians all over the world that they are threatened to the same extent as the Jews and Israel are threatened. And I also say basically that Jews and Christians are waiting for the Messiah, who is a Jew from Israel who speaks Hebrew. And that Messiah is going to come to Jerusalem. And so Christians share this faith with the Jews. Salvation is of the Jews, it says in Romans.
Yes, it does.
And if the Messiah is coming to Jerusalem, the Christians have a right and Christians have an obligation to defend Jerusalem, to stand with Jerusalem, to stand with Israel, to stand with the Jews. And so my message basically is the defense of Western civilization from Islam and an alliance of the Jews and the Christians.
So your wife stirred you on, I guess, the geopolitical scene here, the population, etc. But what event, if there was one, that, you know, you leave your family for how many months at a time?
8 months of the year.
Wow, okay. And to come here to America, traveled the continent, Canada, etc. So what event is it that stirred you to become an activist?
Well, the country that we live in, Israel, is a country which was born out of a Holocaust. Mm-hmm. We lost 6 million people, a third of our people in World War II, and we had no allies. We had no allies. I think the Christians, the Bible-believing Christians of America, were basically unaware, really, of what was going on in Europe, and the Jewish people in America were very busy with their lives here in America. And so 6 million Jews died because we had no allies. The testimony which changed my life forever is the testimony from Dallas in April of 1991, where I was told very clearly by the Council on Foreign Relations in Dallas that Israel would be sold out for a barrel of oil, that there would be another Holocaust.
Now, how did you get invited to that event anyway?
You know, God has such a sense of humor. The Council on Foreign Relations is a very high-polished, yes, high-powered
CFR.
Organization, CFR. And there was a Jewish lady in Dallas, a PR woman, who arranged it for me. And she made many calls to get me in. And the sense of humor of God was basically that Boris Yeltsin, the leader of Russia, was supposed to give 4 lectures to the Council on Foreign Relations in Dallas. He gave 2 lectures. The third lecture was a no-show because he got drunk. And he was so drunk that they had to put him on a plane and send him back to Russia. Okay. Meanwhile, the CFR had committed to a 4th night at the Stauffer Hotel in Dallas, a very 5-star hotel, and they had no speaker. So firstly, God had to get Boris Yeltsin so drunk so that the door would open for me. And secondly, they were under the impression that I was another Lipkin. They thought I was General Amnon Lipkin Shachak, who was chief of staff of the Israeli army. They thought they were getting a general.
Okay.
And so when I arrived in Dallas, they said to me, so what is it like to be a general in the Israeli army? I said, general? I'm Lieutenant Avi of the Army Spokesman's Office.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you guys a lecture tonight.
So you had the floor anyways.
But what they said to me after all of my lecture, that Israel must not withdraw from the Jordan River. Israel must not come down from the Golan Heights. And what I said then was that Israel should not withdraw from Gaza, which we unfortunately did, big mistake. But the point is that Israel, according to the UN resolutions, 242 and 338, must have defensible borders, meaning we do not go back to the borders of June the 5th, 67, right, which is what the State Department and the world is trying to force Israel to do.
Which means to give up the Golan and...
Golan and Judea and Samaria and Jerusalem. And
Which our people have to know that these are strategic points, that the height of the Golan and what's the width of Israel anyway?
9 miles.
Okay, and to give up Judea, Samaria.
How big is Houston? How big is Dallas?
Yeah, a little bit more than 9 miles.
For Texans, I always use the example of New Braunfels and San Antonio, because if you go, for example, from the Air Force Base, what's the name of the Air Force Base near San Antonio, the big one, on the way to New Braunfels?
Yes.
So it's 20 minutes to New Braunfels, and it's 30 minutes to San Antonio, Randolph's Air Force Base.
Yeah, that's right.
And basically, that's the width of Israel, because from the Mediterranean Sea, you drive to Jerusalem in 30 minutes, and from Jerusalem, you reach the Jordanian border and the Jordan River and the Dead Sea in 20 minutes. So for Texans, usually who know San Antonio, John Hagee, of course, would know knows the dimensions. If, God forbid, a Palestinian state is created, and if, God forbid, the westernmost border of the Judea-Samaria is Qalqilia and Tulkarem, then they are only 9 miles from the Mediterranean Sea. And if we hand over control of the Jordan River, which, of course, the Palestinians will demand, then there's nothing to stop a 10 million man Islamic march to the sea. But anyway, the point was, and this is the bottom line, that the Council on Foreign Relations people said to me 2 things. Firstly, Israel will be surrendered to the Muslims, and America doesn't care about UN resolutions 242 and 338 calling for new borders, which are secured, recognized, and defensible. And secondly, and this is the key to my message, it's why I wrote Christian Revival for Israel's Survival. They said to me that there's only one thing that made America great, and that's the barrel of oil, the steady price of oil, the steady supply of oil. And a very dear Christian friend and ally that night got up and said, you call yourselves Christians? You say that what made America great was the barrel of oil, steady price of oil, steady supply of oil? You should be ashamed of yourselves. What made America great is not the barrel of oil. What made America great was Jesus Christ. And as a Jew from Israel, at first, I didn't like Jesus Christ very much. But after Eric Gustafson said it the way he said it, I understood that there is a line in the sand. And either you are a Christian and you support Israel, or you are an anti-Christian and you support the Arabs because you work for mammon, you serve mammon, you serve oil, you don't serve the Lord. And of course, Christians who watch this show know you cannot serve the Lord and serve mammon. You have to choose.
So there's a big line there. So Avi, when you carry this message around, Christian Revival for Israel's Survival, and you're speaking to Israeli Jews, American Jews, do they receive it the same way? Is it a different message?
Well, I have to tell you something. I moved to Israel when I was 19 years old, and that was 40 years ago, because it had been inculcated in me in Hebrew school that Christians hate us. And I'd never left New York City. And by the way, I'd never in my life been called anything anti-Semitic.
So you were taught this in where?
In Hebrew school.
Hebrew school.
Well, the Germans, the Austrians, the Swiss, Germanic nations were enemies. Okay. The Russians, the Polish, the Ukrainians were enemies. The Catholics were enemies. And of course, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants of America who never killed one Jew, rest assured they would kill us one day. That's what I was taught in Hebrew school. Okay. So by 15, I was thoroughly paranoid, and by 19, I moved to Israel. And then I met my wife, and my wife said to me, why did you leave America? Are you crazy? And I said, because the Goyim, the Gentiles, hate us. And she said, the Goyim, the Gentiles, and who are they? I said, the Christians. She said, no, you don't know anything, she said to me. Christians are not Gentiles. Christians cannot be Gentiles. The Muslims, they are the Gentiles. Gentile means pagan. If you, as Christians, have the same God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that the Jews have, and that's confirmed 7 times in the New Testament, right. If Christians believe in the Old Testament like the Jews do, and if the Messiah is a Jew from Israel who speaks Hebrew, then are Christians pagans?
Can't be.
Christians are family, like the Olive Garden.
I think they're rooted in.
Yeah. So I was being joking about the Olive Garden, but the point is that the Jews and the Christians are one people. When I go back to the synagogue where I was raised in New York, and I've been going to that synagogue for over 50 years, and I say to them, they say, so where are you going this time? I say, well, I'm going to Texas. And they say, why are you going to Texas? They hate us in Texas. And I said, what do you mean they hate us? Yeah, Texas is anti-Semitic. And I said to them, have you ever been in Texas? No. Well, if you've never been in Texas, how do you know they're anti-Semitic? Well, everybody knows they hate us in Texas. And by the way, I go to Coeur d'Alene for Chuck Missler's Koinonia House conferences. And everybody said, oh, the neo-Nazis are in Coeur d'Alene. Aren't you afraid to go there? I said, I've been in Coeur d'Alene for 10 years now. And I've been looking for neo-Nazis with a camera, with a flashlight. I can't find them anywhere. So Jewish people in New York many times have a misconception. And I say to the Jews, I say, you need to go to church. So they say, what? Are you saying to us to go to church? He's a Jew for Jesus. I said, I'm not a Jew for Jesus. But if you go to the Christian churches in Texas or in any state, you'll find churches that have nothing but love for the Jews. And they say to me, we don't go to synagogue on Saturday. Why should we go to the church on Sunday? And then I say to them, you should read the New Testament. They say, why should we read the New Testament if we don't read the Old Testament?
And?
So the point is, Jewish people are on a different page. And I want to say something, and I hope my
Jewish... you're able to cross both lines.
And I have to cross both lines. But the point that I'm saying is, the struggle with Islam is a three-dimensional struggle. One must be acquainted with the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the Quran. The work that I'm doing requires me to know the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the Quran. Christians know the New Testament and the Old Testament, but most Christians do not know anything about Islam, about the Quran and the Hadith. Jewish people do not know the Quran, they don't know the New Testament, and many Jews, unfortunately, don't know the Old Testament either. And so Jewish people are basically desensitized to the struggle that the world is facing now with Islam.
Let's come back in a minute on that point here, Avi. Let's just take a break. We're going to come back in just a minute, let Avi finish up. And just want to introduce you to a British author and political activist fighting anti-Israel, the lies and the propaganda in England. And stay tuned and enjoy.
Over the centuries, Jews and Christians have been persecuted, tortured, and martyred. Never again. God has a plan to establish solidarity in these prophetic times. We must never forget.
Off the top of my head, I would say one was the claim that there was a massacre committed by Israeli troops in a village called Tantura in 1948. This claim was exposed as fraudulent. It was admitted to be fraudulent by the Israeli left-wing graduate students who concocted this claim. It is still being promoted by the anti-Zionist movement all over the world. So that's number one. Number two, I would say, is that the claim that Israel somehow supported Hamas at one point during the 1980s as a way of counterbalancing the PLO, which is impossible because Hamas didn't even exist until the late 1980s. Just impossible. That would be number two. Number three would be the claim that most of the victims of the Lebanese people who died during last year's conflict in Lebanon, it's claimed that the vast majority were civilians. Well, we know that's not true because estimates have appeared from Arab sources in the Arab media documenting that at least 600, 700 of the 1,000 Lebanese who died were Hezbollah terrorists. So it just can't be, but we will be hearing forever that most of the victims, Lebanese casualties in that war were civilians. Also on the same theme, this would be number four, in 1982 war, it was claimed that Israel killed 20,000 Lebanese, most of whom were civilians. This claim originated with statistics that were issued at the time by the Lebanese police, which were themselves based on propaganda figures issued by the PLO. The truth is that a couple of years after the 1982 war, the Lebanese government officially repudiated the claim that 20,000 people had died. They listed the total number of Lebanese casualties in that war as 1,000, not 20,000 civilians murdered by Israel in 1982. But you see this claim in all anti-Zionist and all anti-Israel propaganda.